All right, today we are diving into something pretty deep. We're going to unpack a really dense but honestly fascinating argument from a text that's almost 2,000 years old. And it gets right to the heart of a huge question. Can anything really be free? Or is everything, and I mean everything, either a master or a servant? It's a wild thought.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at the big question itself. Then we'll see the idea that the author is so passionately arguing against. We'll follow their logic step by step, and then finally, see how they bring it all home with a dramatic conclusion.
All right, let's set the stage. The whole reason this argument even exists is because there was a major disagreement, a real conflict, about where one particular being fits into the grand scheme of things.
And boom, here it is, the core question. What is the true nature of the Spirit? See, the author is jumping into this ongoing debate. People were asking, is the Spirit a servant, part of creation? Is it a master, like God himself? But then this third idea pops up. What if it's neither? What if it's just free? And let me tell you, this isn't just about words. This question shakes the very foundation of how you see the entire universe.
So, before we get into our author's comeback, we've got to understand the argument they're so fired up to take down.
So, the idea they're fighting is this. The Spirit doesn't play by the master or servant rules. It's in its own category. A third option. It's just free. It's basically an independent agent, outside of that whole power dynamic. And honestly, to us today, that probably sounds pretty reasonable, right? Well, our author, not a fan. Not at all.
And you can just feel their reaction in this quote. Oh, the terrible insensibility, the pitiable audacity of them that maintain this. I mean, wow, this is not a polite debate over coffee. The author thinks this idea is not just wrong, but it's shockingly, pathetically bold. This quote just sets the tone. It's going to be a fight.
So how does the author start to push back? This is where it gets really interesting. They don't start with angels and divine beings. Nope, they start right here with us, using the very human concept of servitude and bondage to make their point about the entire cosmos.
So first, they lay out how servitude even happens in the human world. And the point is, it's not natural. Nobody is born a slave. It happens for a few reasons. 1, you get captured in a war. 2, you're crushed by poverty and debt. Or 3, a father puts you under someone's care for your own good. See the pattern? For people, being a servant is something that happens to you. It's not who you are from the start.
Okay, and here's a twist that might feel weird to us. The author says that for someone who can't really guide themselves, someone who lacks that principle of rule, being a servant is actually a good thing. It's profitable. The analogy they use is a chariot. A chariot needs a driver, right? Otherwise, it just crashes. So in this view, servitude can actually be a form of safety, of being guided properly.
Okay, so the author has just laid out all these rules for how things work in the human world, and now they pull the rug out from under us. Because when we start talking about the divine reality, all those rules go right out the window.
And this right here, this is the absolute heart of the whole argument. In our world, yes, you can be free from another person. But in the divine world, it's a totally different story. The author's point is that if you were created, you are, by definition, a servant to the Creator, period. Bondage isn't situational, it's inherent. The second you exist, you're in a state of servitude. Everything, angels, people, you name it, we're all fellow slaves under one single master.
And to prove this, they bring in Scripture. This verse from Malachi basically says there are only 2 ways to relate to God. Either you're a son who owes your father honor, or you're a servant who owes your master fear. That's it. For our author, every single thing that exists has to fit into one of those 2 boxes. There's no room for a third option. And this is it. This is the final move. The author takes everything we've just discussed and uses it to set a perfect logical trap, a choice with only 2 doors, designed to completely corner their opponents. First, they make this huge, sweeping claim. They say a being that has no one ruling over it, no king, no master, that kind of being just can't exist. It's an impossibility. If you're not ruled by something, you might as well not exist at all. Everything has to fit into the hierarchy somewhere.
And here's the checkmate. It's a simple fork in the road. Look, if the Spirit is part of creation, well then it has to be a servant, just like everything else that was created. But if the Spirit is above creation, then it must be on the other side of the line. It's divine, it's royalty, it's a master. Do you see? Servant or master, creature or God. There is no in-between.
And there you have it. The argument is complete. The author has basically said that our idea of free is a human invention, something that only applies to our messy little world. In the grand cosmic divine order, everything serves the Creator. So that forces the choice. The Spirit is either a creature and therefore a servant, or it's divine and a master. That middle ground, that free position, it's not just eliminated, it's blasted out of the water and labeled obvious blasphemy.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's not just about some old, dusty theological debate. This is a real challenge to how we think today. I mean, we love freedom, right? Independence, autonomy, that's everything to us. But this text, this 2,000-year-old argument, looks you right in the eye and asks, is your concept of freedom really a universal truth, or is it just a human thing, a small idea that doesn't apply to the bigger picture? It's a huge question, and it's amazing that something this old can still really make you stop and think.